Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
Absolute format is the best way to own this store. Time to empty those wallets and fill those shelves. How's it going, all you minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And join me today for my overview of the Superman, the Exile, and Other Stories Omnibus from DC Comics. So let's go ahead and get started. And welcome back, everybody. So here is the latest printing of Superman, the Exile, and Other Stories Omnibus. This was previously printed in 2018. So this is the 2024 printing. And as a matter of fact, let's just go ahead and pop the original printing right up there, right next to this printing right here, and check out what the differences in the covers are. And honestly, it doesn't look much different at all, with the exception of the colors maybe a little bit more faded out. I don't want to say that, because that makes it sound like it's been sitting out in the sun, but less vibrant than the colors over here in the 2018 printing. And then that's just the front. Let's look at the spines of the books, and you'll see Superman, the Exile, and Other Stories, the exact same font, Omnibus, and the DC logo. Now, one of the things you'll probably notice right away is the font is a lot smaller than the font on the original printing, and that is because, I'm sure you could probably tell, this is slimmer than the original printing. A lot of us know that's because they're using this new paper stock. The back of the book, it looks like they're using the same font for the synopsis of the book. Superman silhouette. That's an awesome image right there, looking at that side of what looks like California. ISBN down here, $125 for the original printing, $125 for the new printing. And let's look at what's underneath the dust jackets. And underneath the dust jacket of the new printing. And of course, we gotta do this justice and look at the flaps over here. The secret of Gangbuster. I love that that is actually what's over here, because there is a lot of Gangbuster here. And taking the top billing for the bio is Jerry Ordway, Dan Jurgens, Roger Stern, and Kerry Gamble right there. So, same thing as the original printing. Actually, I wanted to do a quick look. Yeah, okay. Both of them have a glossy finish to it and a flat finish to it. Now let's look over here, because this image looks identical, I think. Yeah, maybe my eyes are deceiving me. Let's do this way. No, it looks like it's, yeah, the same distance from the spine, same distance from the top, and yeah, same size. Sorry. I don't know, most people are like, what the hell are you doing? I'm just trying to be as thorough as I possibly can. Now, I've seen some people talk about how the new spines of some of the books they've been getting, of new printings or new restocks, have the DC Bullet logo from the classic era. I don't know if your copy will or not, but this is the way my copy looks. And that is an image that wraps all the way around the board itself. So you have the front board, back board, and then the spine. Superman, the Exile, and Other Stories Omnibus. So we are going to crack this book open. Actually, no. What? Let's put the freaking dust jacket back on. There's something I forgot to do. And that's quickly to talk about where it fits into the reading order of Superman. Let's just stick to Omnibus format for right now. But you've got Superman, the Exile, and Other Stories. Then you have the Triangle Era. And then you have the Death and Return of Superman Omnibus. And here's where people are like, actually, because they're right, actually, this is really closer to the way it's supposed to look like. We need an omnibus in between this, and another omnibus, a volume 2 of Triangle Era, between this and this. You know, you gotta have the Eradication story, and you have to have, like, Panic in the Sky and stories like that. Now, if you want to get a little more precise, go and check out, by all means, my reading order of Superman. It's been a long time putting it together, and I swear the reading orders will be back first thing in January. I want to start taking votes as to what people want to see. But this is the way it's going to look if you just collect Superman in omnibus format. If you mix and match, then this is what leads into this. So the John Byrne era, and this was not collected in the John Byrne era. This is the Action Comic stories. You still need like World of Krypton and stuff like that too. Leads into this. Then of course you've got volumes of trade paperbacks that aren't fully collecting all the stories, but some of the stories in between these Omnis here. But this kind of gives you a better idea as to what this looks like. This takes place after the John Byrne era of Man of Steel. Now, let's go ahead and crack this book open, talk about the stories found in here, show off this artwork, and then do a comparison to the original printing. All right, let's go ahead and open up this Omnibus. You have black end sheets here, Superman the Exile, and other stories. Omnibus, the collection cover art by Kerry Gamble and Dennis Janke, and then Superman created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster by special arrangement with the Jerry Siegel family. A lot of that is just because of the licensing and copyrights. Over here is your table of contents, including the introduction here by Jerry Ordway, and then you've got the chapter breaks where you're going to find each of the stories and then where they originated from. So something you'll see is this kicks off with The Adventures of Superman 445. And I told you where to read the other stories that predate this one. And those can be found in the John Byrne Man of Steel collections. They're also available in trade paperback. But like I said, go and see my reading order because that'll give you options as to how you can get those. Because there are unfortunately no Omnis right now. But they also tell you who it was written by, who the penciler was, the inker, the colorist at the time, and the letterer, and who the cover artist was. I love that they break it down like this. And again, you have this blue pattern in the background here, and the silhouette of Superman. This introduction by Jerry Ordway, talking about exactly how this happened, how he went from maybe I can write comics to writing monthly comics, and a lot of it has to do with the editors that were working at the time. A lot of those guys are the unsung heroes of these stories, right? You hear about the writers, the artists, but the editors that push a lot of these writers and artists, you hardly hear stories about them. So I'm glad introductions give those people a moment to shine. And we kick it off with The Adventures of Superman 445. So this does have The Adventures of Superman 445 to 459, Superman 23 to 27. And then something big happens. We have the return of Action Comics, and that is 643 to 646, and then Action Comics Annual number 2. And the book has 912 pages, and again, retailing for $125. Now, one of the things that's happening here is that you're going to see the supporting cast grow. A little behind the scenes is that John Byrne decided to leave. And he decided to leave, not like in a classic John Byrne, I'm out of here style, but more so like, I had enough fun. I was here for a couple of years, and I reestablished Superman. I want to go and do something else. So he wasn't alone when he started doing these stories, right? Like, you had people like Jerry Ordway that were already helping along the way. You had Marv Wolfman and then George Perez. So Jerry Ordway actually knew where some of the stories were going to go. So whatever John Byrne didn't get to wrap up, you'll see build and build on. Now, I will say, I'm not going to go into big spoilers, but I will say something that happened previously was a big controversial thing that Superman did. And it happened in the pages of Man of Steel, the collections. I'm not going to tell you where exactly it happens, because then you're going to be like, I'll just go and look up what happened in that issue. Something big happens in Superman's life, and it makes him question who he is. There's a couple of other things, and one of them is the character of Jose Delgado, the character that was Gangbuster. During this time, he's in a wheelchair, and you can find out what happened to him in previous collections, and he is no longer Gangbuster. He's still with Lois Lane during this time a little bit. Superman, or Clark Kent, was actually with Kat, who becomes a big character throughout these pages. Oh my gosh, check this out. Oh, look at this. Okay, so yes, cool. It's a Batman and Superman story, but even better, P. Craig Russell is the guest inker for Mike Mignola. I love when these two work together. They didn't do a lot of stories together, but just seeing someone else ink Mike Mignola, oh man, so good. But we do have the return of villains, like you saw Brainiac, and it's a different type of Brainiac, but he's going to get to that Brainiac, that greenish skin Brainiac later on. The Silver Banshee making a return. Now, remember what I said about Jose Delgado, like he's in a wheelchair, but he is getting a little bit better. And a lot of it has to do with what's going on with LexCorp and what they're offering him. Clark Kent's still working for the Daily Planet, with Jimmy Olsen and Lois Lane and Kat, again, playing a big role. And then there is a character that shows up dressed like Gangbuster. Gangbuster, what the hell is even that? But Is it Jose Delgado or is it someone else? He claims that it's not him. It could, no way it could be him, because he's not ready to come back. But there are other people that are thinking that it's him. Lex Luthor, by the way. Oh, Lex is making a huge power play through here. He'll even have his own backup stories. Again, you'll see some returning villains. Now, Superman, like I said, is dealing with this big thing that he had to make a decision on. And he's also dealing with like psychological backlash from it. A lot of it is impacting his powers and just his stamina. He feels like he's not as strong as he used to be. He's actually getting taken down quite easy. There's a team up here between Lex Luthor and the character of Brainiac that kind of opens his eyes as to, wait, maybe I'm not really helping humanity as much as I thought I was. And again, Gangbuster, the mystery of who he is and what he could be. Oh, I forgot, Maggie Sawyer and Dan Turpin play a big role through here. And that's one of the beautiful things about this era of Superman, if you like this sort of thing, is that you're going to see focus on Superman in one comic, right? You're going to see it in the Superman comic, but in Adventures of Superman, you're going to see more of a focus on the character of Gangbuster. You're going to see more of a focus on Clark Kent and less Superman. And then you're going to see more of a focus on the detectives like Maggie Sawyer and Dan Turpin, and also the supporting cast from the Daily Planet. And that's what I love about this, because as much as I love Superman stories, I really care about those other characters too. Gladiator showing up here, not believing the character of Gangbuster is actually a good person. You do have Bibbo coming back in here from time to time, and other characters too, like some of these characters that were just like in a little bit of the background. And again, this turmoil is eating up at Superman. And eventually what happens is he makes a decision. He thinks that he's leaving Metropolis and then Smallville in good hands. So there's a reason why this story is called Exile. He puts himself into exile. And he has this apparatus that lets him breathe in space. He says goodbye to his parents and Lana Lang. And again, he's not with Lois during this time. And he goes into outer space to seek himself, to seek whatever he's looking for has to be out there. It can't just be found on Earth, because he feels like he's a crutch to Earth for the sins that he committed. So through Exile, you'll see him deal with alien lives and trying to help people out until he eventually finds this, well, we'll get to it here in a second. I don't want to spoil what happens in this. And there's also backup stories. There's these backup stories that feature Lex Luthor, and it's Luthor making his move, taking over corporations, and eventually trying to move into something. And if you can look at the covers here, you'll see like the backup stories that lead into, yeah, right here, like part 1 of the Hostile Takeover. It's what it's called. You'll see him. Oh, I forgot to mention this character too. Oh, this can get a little confusing in case you don't know who this is. Eventually you'll see Luthor, like I said, even move into like a little bit of the government. Now, when he left Jonathan and Martha Kent in Smallville, there's another character that's been with them too, and that comes from the pages of, again, John Byrne's Man of Steel collections, and that is the character of Matrix, who a lot of people probably know because in the Death and Return of Superman Omnibus, it is Supergirl, right? But it is a different Supergirl. It's not the Supergirl that is his cousin, and it is explained through here who she is. Now, this is Jose Delgado's new outfit here, working for the Lex Corporation, so perhaps it was him that was the gangbuster, maybe. There is a little bit of a mistake that they left on the cover, and I love that they did that because it was found in the original one. So the Part 3 of Lex Luthor's Hostile Takeover is on there twice. So here and here, but this is really Part 4 of the Hostile Takeover. Yeah, I love the fact that, you know, Superman's in space and he's dealing with all these things, growing a beard. He gets sent to War World. And, of course, in War World is Mongul, and he gets to fight in this gladiator pit where he makes friends. And you have some wonderful artwork in here by Mike Mignola again, Jerry Ordway, Carrie Gamble doing this stuff in here. And if this storyline sounds a little familiar to you, it's because there was a War World storyline that just happened recently by Philip Kennedy Johnson. But they're both a little different, right? Like, Superman in this story decides to go to space, to exile himself from Earth. And in the Philip Kennedy Johnson story, he gets taken, right? He doesn't really have a choice. I mean, he does have a choice, but he doesn't. Even the annual plays a big part in this Gladiator story too, and that's where you're going to see the Mike Mignola artwork. But, of course, like all good things, you know, he doesn't really stay there for a long time. He's out there for some months, though. And eventually, Exile no more. Now, during this time, there's also a Clark Kent that is here on Earth. But how can that happen? And again, all of it will be explained through here. And then Superman makes the triumphant return in Action Comics. So Action Comics was still going on, but it wasn't focusing on Superman. And that can be found in that trade paperback I showed a little bit earlier. Now we have George Perez writing the story and doing the breakdowns, with Brett Breeding doing the finishes on the return of Superman to Action Comics. Now when he returns with this particular device that is known as the Eradicator. Once the Eradicator makes contact with someone here on Earth, remember what I said about Brainiac looking a little more greenish, like you know and love? That's when things get difficult for Superman, and this thing that will be the Eradicator. Oh, Maxima makes her first appearance here. I love that character. I don't know how anybody else feels about Maxima, but I love that. I loved her time. Peyton was not my Starman. I am all about Jack Knight. But anyway, Maxima, I loved her in the Justice League. I thought she made a great addition for a character that started off like a villain and then moved on to being a superhero. This is the prankster story. And eventually, yes, this Eradicator, or whatever it is, and you can find out here, it's not what you think it is if you've been reading like the Death and Return of Superman. It's a little more confusing than that. Roger Stern now stepping in with Keith Giffen doing a lot of the breakdown art through here. But it becomes a problem, and Superman has to deal with this eradication creation, if you will. And it doesn't really end on a huge cliffhanger, but there are some things that haven't been wrapped up. But there's enough material for another omnibus, focusing more on the Eradicator. So it could be called Eradication if they wanted to. All the way in the back is the extras here, including the trade paperback cover here by Jerry Ordway, and character designs with Hot Superman there with a beard and aliens from the different worlds that he traveled to and try to save. And then original artwork in here by Jerry Ordway. Don't know why I'm doing this backwards, but for some reason I am. And yes, there's enough material for another volume, another omnibus in between this and the Triangle Years Volume 1. Now what I want to do really quick is compare it to the original printing. Okay, so you have the original printing over here, which I showed already, just the spines alone. It is thicker than this. Same type of paper stock they're using for end sheets. Now, the paper stock, they are using a thick, glossy paper stock for the original printing, while the new printing has this new type of paper that they've used. It's like a satin type of paper, but actually this one feeling a lot more glossy than other DC Omnis, but just not as thick as this. I mean, but that's not just the case with DC. I mean, Marvel also has thinner paper than they used to have. And the way it affects it, of course, is the bleed through from the opposite page. It's a lot more prominent here than, say, over here. It's still there. This isn't perfect. This isn't like the thickest paper stuff, but definitely a lot thicker than this, or feels a lot thicker. But it does have more bleed through than this over here, especially when it's just whites or some lighter colors. Now, the way the book lays over, just use this page right here as a comparison in the way the books lay over. So you get a little bit more of a gutter loss over here in the new printing than you do in the original printing. And that's, a lot of it has to do with that eye. And let's look at, even after stretching the spine, there's not much of an eye here, but that is the big difference, I think. You know, as far as like the colors themselves, even with the new paper stock they're using, they look just a little bit lighter than the colors over here in the original printing. So everything else is intact in here, same page count. It's got the big crossover with Invasion, the Earth Strike. So yeah, that's it. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this omnibus, don't forget to check out our sponsors.
If you're in Europe and you're interested in buying these books, definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices, flat shipping rate of €12 for all EU countries, emails answered within 24 hours, waltscomicshop.com, and you can use the code nearmintcondition at checkout and get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order over €40. That's Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ding!
cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this book, and of course the comparison to the original printing. If you have any more questions, leave them down below. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. And of course, do you want to see another Superman collection that happens right after this and leads us directly into the Triangle years? I know I'm not alone. There's no way I'm alone. If you have any questions, leave them down below. Smash that like button on the way out. Check us out on Patreon and Spreadshop. Amazing ways to support the channel. Everyone stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.